This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast. Today's discussion is a discussion on Apollo Global Management, 7 key points. First, Apollo Global Management is one of the largest of the private equity funds and alternative asset managers with about $600 billion in total assets under management. That's a big number. Second, they saw their first quarter earnings fall by about 8% year over year from a quarter a year ago. Third, like other private equity funds and private equity businesses, it saw less exits in the first quarter this year than last year, thus the lower earnings mostly accounted for through that. Third, it saw its net income fall to $845 million from $917 million. This is a relatively small drop, and that's a relatively small drop in part because so much of private equity income today is being driven by management fees and other kinds of fees versus necessarily just profits on deals. Fifth, its performance fees dropped almost entirely. The performance fees, call them capital gains, performance fees, whatever you want to call them, it's a typical private equity fund gets paid by its investors 2% plus 20%. And the 2 and 20 means that it's 2% of assets under management or get a 2% management fee, and then they get 20% of the profits on deals. So if there's almost no exits, there's almost no profits on deals. So very little of that. Sixth, its management fees did rise for the quarter to $400 million, which are serious management fees. Finally, it raised in new capital and commitments $57 billion in the first quarter. So a very good quarter of fundraising in a fundraising environment that's fairly challenging. And in fact, many private equity funds are seeing themselves having a harder time raising capital than they have in years. In any event, those are 7 quick points on Apollo Global Management. Just to give a very quick postscript on this, you've got Blackstone, the largest of the PE fund alternative asset managers, with about $941 billion in assets under management, and then KKR, right about $500 billion in assets under management. So 3 of the biggest funds, Blackstone, Apollo, and KKR. That's the results for Apollo for the quarter. Not bad at all, given all the lack of exits and the lack of transaction activity. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast.